Welcome back, my little recusants, to another episode of our Pokemon Yellow episodic Nuzlocke. We are on our way to Fuchsia City to get the Soul Badge. We have got a new encounter in the previous episode of Farfetch'd, and right now we are just trying our very best to make it through this maze of trainers. And again, Flare is just proving to be a slow burn Pokemon, no pun intended. But she's just going to take that little bit to level up, and we are going to hop straight into a battle with another junior trainer with a Poliwag. So, you know, not the best matchup for Flare by any means. But we could switch to Pikachu and basically, you know, between flying types and water types, Pikachu's fairly okay at dealing with those. One Thunderbolt should be enough, hopefully. With a critical hit it'll definitely be, and that is some more experience for Pikachu. And I mean, look, one was grand, let's just go again. And as I say, for Roxas now, he's really kind of, I suppose, getting good at being a trainer. I mean, he'd want to be. He's literally halfway to completing the gym challenge. But he's getting a little bit of a reputation, and the more he kind of progresses, the more he learns that Team Rocket have been spreading a sort of infamy about him. And I suppose the Pikachu-wielding trainer is now making its rounds. And, you know, they're looking at all his gym badges, so he's making it a name for himself. But let's roll our title card and get started with the rest of the episode. Mistress of the Skies. So we progress on through this maze of difficulty, fighting trainer after trainer, and, you know, the trainers are basically saying that, you know, word has reached them that, like, Celadon, you know, had an illegal gambling ring, and that there was a young trainer that ended up, you know, taking on Team Rocket, and even the, like, police force were having struggles there, and finding difficulties in making arrests and things, and that it's just so good to have a trainer that is, you know, moral and just, and is willing to kind of take the steps necessary to challenge them. And I suppose, you know, an awful lot of these trainers on the lower part of Kanto were even saying that, like, they had heard about what had happened, but that the, you know, guards at the various cycling roads, or, you know, the path, you know, was being blocked by two sleeping Snorlaxes, and the only known way to rouse them was an old relic in Lavender Town that once again nobody could get to because the HM for Fly was also hidden again above the boundary in Celadon City. So the, you know, area was completely locked off and blocked off from any of the southern trainers whose Pokemon Roxas is kind of, you know, gauging are actually quite powerful as well. So an awful lot of them have taken the time, energy to train in kind of wanting to tackle Team Rocket. But, you know, they were trapped by the Snorlaxes. So Roxas does mention that the Snorlax has been moved by the, you know, pier, and that if they want to go to Vermilion and, like, you know, go to Lavender or try and even swing in by Saffron, he basically lets them know that Saffron City is actually in a bit of danger because Team Rocket is basically holed up there and decided to put it under lockdown, I suppose. And on speaking with various trainers and kind of having a bit of a training montage in the grass, Roxas just asks what is so special of Saffron, like, again, not letting on that the dojo was in any way linked to the international spy organization. I mean, one of the reasons he was even able to go there was because Team Rocket hadn't put it under lockdown. Despite the fact that Team Rocket had locked down the Saffron Psychic Gym with the leader Sabrina, as well as, you know, taking over Silphco. And the trainers basically explain that Silphco have been the company that has helped develop and, you know, innovate with regard to Pokemon capturing, and so that there was rumors at their latest expo 3 years ago, so Roxas wouldn't have kind of even been aware of this sort of thing, but that they have actually been working on inventing a Pokeball that can capture any Pokemon without fail. And so, you know, Roxas sits and thinks then, okay, so Team Rocket have been trying to get fossils to resurrect Pokemon from the past. The ghost Pokemon in the Pokemon Tower have been telling him that there's some sort of creation done by Team Rocket that has resulted in some sort of strange creature being created. And so is their end game plan to try and recapture this particular Pokemon that maybe a normal Pokeball can't capture? They've created some sort of monster, and nothing they've tried before works. He basically vows to journey to Cinnabar, resurrect the fossils, find out the truth about his father and its connection to Team Rocket. And then after all of that is done, storm the Silphco building, confront Giovanni for hopefully the last time, and figure out what he's doing with this Master Ball project. But as Roxas trains and trains, Huntress, Peekaboo, Flare, they're all growing by strength to strength, and Huntress getting all the more closer to her evolution at 36. And again, Huntress's hit list getting more and more full with all the different flying types that she's taken down. So her personal quest is getting completed loads. As I say, I will have to kind of go back and find a Farfetch'd, because I did capture Farfetch'd as part of the Nuzlocke encounter, but it would be good to like have Huntress fight a Golbat, a Zubat, you know, a Fearow. I'll actually have to go back and maybe put up a little PowerPoint of just this is Huntress's kill list and what she's managed to take down, I suppose. But again, finding all of these bird keepers, Roxas is complimented on, I suppose, the caliber of his Pidgeotto. It's very clear that he didn't just capture this wild, more powerful Pidgeotto, but she has gained, you know, strength and experience far beyond any wild Pokemon, because she has been with him for such a long time. And this is one thing that does worry Roxas, because he has traveled with his party for so long, and like, yes, Haunter is relatively new, Flare is relatively new in comparison to, you know, Seraphine and some of the other Pokemon that are now at Professor Oak's lab. But he thinks to the fossils in his backpack, and wonders how will they be as new Pokemon? What Pokemon can they even be, in theory, you know? And Roxas ponders how they'll mesh with the new Pokemon team, but ultimately, what Pokemon will he have to get rid of to make the space for this new team member? But as Huntress soars through the sky, fighting hard against this Doduo, she soars and dives and soars and dives, missing repeatedly as the bird just manages to hit it with growl after growl and dodging and weaving its attacks. But with one strike and, you know, conscious attack, it now is Pidgeotto versus Pidgeotto, and unfortunately Huntress is just that little bit too weak, and out comes Splishy to intimidate and, you know, scare this flying type out of the skies. One massive Dragon Rage does over half, and its attempt to Whirlwind Gyarados away is met with like an ineffective thrashing of its scales, as it is also a master of the sky. Huntress, now reaching level 35, swoops down, collects a candy out of Roxas's bag, and then begins to shimmer with that now all too familiar glow of evolution. And with that, Huntress, the first Pokemon Roxas ever caught, begins to develop into its final form. Beautiful resplendent wings and a big golden peak. Pidgeot stands glorious and powerful. Just to also make you guys aware, a little like outside the editor room here, in all my different cuts, you can pretty much imagine that what I basically do is I fly back from all these different encounters where HP is low, etc, etc. I just fly back and then super speed walk back to this area, so I'm not running the risk of, you know, not having a super potion, not having a high potion, like just literally taking the time to heal up the party and just walk back. But now, with another wild Pokemon, with another bird Pokemon trainer here, Roxas is excited to show off his now third stage bird Pokemon. Flare once again trying to get experience, but I tell a lie. It's Pikachu that's here to save the day. With a blast of lightning, Pikachu is able to completely body these flying type Pokemon, allowing her to now catch up in levels, because Peekaboo, for an awful lot of the playthrough actually, hasn't been able to, I suppose, fully shine like a lot of the Pokemon like Ghastly and Pidgeot and, you know, Bellsprout to a certain extent. Like for ages, Weeping Bell and those would have been getting us through Rock Tunnel. You know, Nidoqueen would have been taking a lot of damage as well. So for a lot of the battles, Pikachu has been useful for some, like when it comes to our flying types, etc. and like water types in the SSN, but you know, for a large section when we were fighting against, you know, Raticates and Coughings and poison types, it was like, yeah, we'll use our Haunter, we'll use our Nidoqueen, etc. to do the fighting and do the damage. But as I say, it is super interesting to finally have, I suppose, our Pokemon finally reaching their final potentials. Like having Pidgeot is an amazing milestone that when we started this series, I wasn't sure what Pokemon would survive the Nuzlocke and what ones wouldn't, you know? And, you know, that's just the nature of it, unfortunately. You can never be too sure. Is Pikachu going to make it to the end? Is Haunter, sorry, Haunter's a bad example. Haunter is the example of a Pokemon not making it to the end, you know? And as I say, we just are using our potions and our flies liberally, so we can literally just make it through all these different battles and just make it to Fuchsia City. before, you know, or without a casualty, I should say. But, yeah, like, all that's really left to do at the moment with this little batch of stuff before we get to kind of, I call it the Safari Zone skip. We basically do the Safari Zone, and then once we get Surf and Strength, I look at the next batch of gyms, and I look at the level caps, and or not even the level caps, but like the starting levels for all these gym leaders, and I am like, they're in the 50s. We are currently in our 30s. There needs to be at least a 10 level jump before we can start trying to fight some of these, you know, gym leaders. And like, do you guys want to sit and watch all of that grinding? I made the executive decision of no. I mean, we are just going to be very careful, very prudent, and just fight a couple of, you know, wild Pokemon, wild encounters. Fight them in the Lavender Town Tower, where you are right by the little save crystal, and they mainly do set damage with Nightshade, so you are not going to be caught off guard with like a critical hit. And if you are getting critical hit with Lick, it's more than likely not going to KO. So just so everyone is primed and ready for this eventual, you know, level hike in probably the next episode, because the Safari Zone doesn't take that long. So it's literally going in, getting our Safari Zone capture if we manage to capture it, getting the 2 HMs, and then starting this kind of gym leader rush. So yeah, like, we're kind of getting to the end game. Because as much as you might say, we're at the halfway point, you only have 4 badges. We have been to all the cities. It is literally get to Cinnabar, and then by that point, it's like a short side mission, we can fight Blaine. A short side mission, we can fight, you know, once we finish the Safari Zone, we're going to fight Koga. We're going to get to Cinnabar, we're going to fight Blaine after a short side mission. Sylph is probably going to be pretty long, just because it's going to take us all that time just to fight all the different trainers in Sylphco. And we also run the risk, if we get things at too kind of high of a level, that we need to bring in like Hitmonchan or various other Pokemon that aren't super high leveled, just to absorb some of that experience so we don't accidentally over level. But at the same time, I could definitely like bring Victory Bell and get her fairly close to like the max level, purely because like with the next couple of gyms, Psychic and Fire and Poison, we're not going to be using a grass type there. And as I say, Flare finally learning a useful move in Confuse Ray. And we are going to be keeping Flare a Vulpix until she learns Flamethrower. That is around level 34. But as I say, once she learns Flamethrower, that just makes the grinding with her all the more easier. And as I say, here is just the absolute power of Chrysalis when it comes to going up against, you know, poison types, because it goes up against Coughings. If they self-destruct, you're done. Like, the self-destruct is whatever, it's completely fine. Now, we're not using Nightshade because I didn't fly back and we didn't manage to get, you know, an Ether or anything. So we're just kind of hopping along and trying to make sure that we get through that battle not too bad. And then it's just the case of making sure Pikachu's up front, because this next trainer, I believe, is another bird keeper. And he's ending up talking about the legendary birds. And let me talk to you about that part of the Nuzlocke challenge, because ultimately, we've said it before and we'll say it again. Ooh, another one off Huntress's list. Hang on, this is Huntress's kill. Let's go, Farfetch'd. But sorry, so Huntress's goal is to become the most powerful flying type in the region of Kanto. And I think one of her major, events should actually be defeating one of the legendary birds. But having said all of this, this Farfetch'd is scaring me. It has 2 swords dances. It has an agility, so it will outspeed. It will probably use slash or use some other strong move. But thankfully, a critical hit from Huntress with just superior stats destroys Farfetch'd. But I'm sitting there being like, am I about to lose my Huntress? The episode it evolves to a swords dancing, leek wielding duck. Couldn't have been. I literally was like, this would just be just such a tragedy. And an insult to the legacy that was Huntress if that happened. But as I say, Coughings go up against, Haunter, and, it's game over. It's going to just be so easy. And the very same with this fight here. Another biker typically means either fighting types or poison types. And it's going to be fairly straightforward and simple. So that fight was pretty easily finished up as well. And as I say, the Pokemon are fine. There's nothing wrong with any of them. There's no accidentally KO'd Pokemon after those battles. It's just this section has been really long. It's just been a really long section. And I suppose we went rooting through the grass and we were like trying to find Pokemon that fit the bill. And so here is our first Nuzlocke encounter with a Venonat. And so then I'm like, right, let's swap in our grass type, put it to sleep, do a few cuts, and we can get it absolutely sorted. But then I'm like, oh, it has psychic moves, be careful. But yeah, when it comes to these kind of areas at this point in the game, I was really disappointed. I thought that we could end up capturing Ditto here, but it isn't in the Pokemon Yellow encounter table, so I was like raging that wasn't able to be our encounter here. But we get a Venonat. It's a useful psychic type, actually knows psychic moves and like has leech life as well, so
Venonat, the insect Pokemon. Its large eyes act as radars. In a bright place, you can see that they are clusters of tiny eyes.
We end up naming it Nat 20. So that's hella adorable. Little D&D reference there. And other than that, we basically skedaddle back and a ways over to Fuchsia just to get there, to be perfectly honest, because we're just slogging our way through all these trainers, and like we've just stabilized so well that it literally is the point now where, yeah, we've poison types, let's just use Haunter to be safe. But like Pikachu's speed is that high as well, it's just well able to just one bang. But there's always that absolute dread of like, what if it has self-destruct? And, we're not punished, but, looking back with the benefit of hindsight, it's like, that could have been a self-destruct, that could have been Pikachu just gone. So, when in doubt, when something like a Voltorb or a Coughing appears, it's like, do you have something that can take self-destruct? I do. It's called Haunter. I will use that. Because even if it's going to use normal moves, it can't. If it's going to use poison moves, they're resisted. If it's going to use electric attacks, I can probably put it to sleep with Hypnosis. And then Dream Eater, or whatever I want to do, So it's not that much of a worry. But I don't know where I'm getting the balls and the gumption to just take on a bunch of Coughings at half health. Madness, but hey, genius and madness. Sometimes they're hard to tell apart, you know? But Pikachu is like delighted with life. It is like, yeah, we did great. I beat some Coughings. I'm amazing. But other than that, ladies and gents, we're just gonna skedaddle over to Fuchsia, heal up our Pokemon, and come back and fight all these trainers in a jiffy once we kind of use this grass that I'm walking through to get some much needed levels. And as I say, hope you've been enjoying the Nuzlocke so far. We're definitely going to be having some interesting developments once we get to the next episode with the Safari Zone and then the level skips. So again, just making you aware that we're going to have some massive level hikes, and I hope you're okay with that. But I just don't want to waste your time, basically, with just needless grinding. But that's been our episode. Talk to you next time, and have a good one.